What's up guys, Nanjiroh here. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Right, so I don't really talk about this much, but I am fairly active on Discord and quite a few channels, as well as on Twitch, as a moderator for several channels, and a lot of times people will come up to me and they'll ask me a question, and sometimes the question isn't actually that short. Sometimes the question I don't have that short of an answer for, so I decided to make a segment again by popular request called Ask Nanjiroh, in which you can go ahead and ask me a question over the course of any given week, and I'll go ahead and I'll literally copy paste, save the question, and even go ahead and label it so that way I can remember who it was that asked me this, and I'll go ahead and answer your question live in a video, just because I don't have that quite much time in order to answer some of these in shorter segments, and it probably would be better for you, the viewer or the person who asked me the question, if I were to answer it and you're able to, you know, listen to it at your leisure. So we're just gonna go ahead and start from the top. I'll probably answer most of these, but I'm not sure exactly how long the video will be. And if it gets too long, I'll just go ahead and cut some of these off and save it for next week. So we'll go ahead and start with the first batch by Nighttime 3. Will the Salty 6 ever disappear? Now, I'm not going to name any names, but generally, when you go to like Twitch or like Discord and whatnot for Shadowverse, especially for Twitch, you tend to see a lot of the same people and a lot of the same streams, and generally people kind of like make a name for themselves sort of just by, you know, their overall personality whenever you interact with that person in a stream. Now the Salty 6 is and that's actually a nickname that I gave to myself, is a particular 6 individuals. However, the Salty 6 can be, you know, more than 6 or whatever, but just specifically for this context, 6 specific individuals who literally anytime I saw them, it didn't matter what stream they were, it didn't matter whose stream that they were in or what exactly was going on inside the stream, they would be salty, they would be angry, and they'd be complaining about the game. Now, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. However, it becomes a problem when you go ahead and you try to promote your opinion in the incorrect forms for that to happen. Like if you go to a stream, you should be there to watch the stream. You shouldn't just be there to go ahead and complain and be like, "Dance game, what is Side Games doing?" and all of that. No, like that's not what you should be there for. Like, you should be there to either get entertainment value from watching the streamer, or to go ahead and like interact with the streamer's chat. But back to the actual question, will they ever disappear? I do believe that yes, that for a lot of these people that they'll either leave because they get banned, or they'll leave because they ultimately realize that, okay, the game's not going to change, maybe card games aren't for me, or lastly, maybe someone will be able to talk sense into them, and maybe they'll go ahead and change their mind. Alright, on to the second question. Do you think Shadowverse has been going downhill? Alright, so for me personally, again, quick backstory, I've been playing card games for a while. Like, I've been playing card games since I was 9, and I'm a little bit over 25 now. And I've played a lot of different games, almost since their inception. Like, for example, I literally played Yu-Gi-Oh! Like the first year that I was like out, and I've also played other like fairly new like card games such as like Hearthstone, and I've also played the older games that have been out like since like that are pretty much like the forefather of card games as a whole, such as Magic the Gathering. And I believe that, in my personal opinion, Shadowverse is fine as it is, just because every single day you tend to yeah, you even if you yourself can't actually see it, you tangibly get like newer and newer faces into the game, either because they're from Hearthstone, which is the other major mobile CCG competitor, or they're just new to the game, and maybe like you like, and maybe a friend of theirs or whatever like introduced them to the game. Again, while you yourself can't see it, that doesn't mean that's not growing. It just means that you yourself can't tangibly see it. And I know that a lot of times people will say that's going downhill just because you can look at other Twitch streams for other games, such as, for example, League of Legends. And League of Legends, for most streams that I watch from there, they usually have like no less than maybe like 1,000 plus viewers. But that's because League is a bigger game that has been established over a longer period of time. Like you can't compare a game that literally just turned a year old like last week to a game that's been active for like 10 years. Like that's just not fair. And a big thing, especially for card games, is that early on there's going to be a lot of growing pains. Like I remember in Yu-Gi-Oh when we had stuff like Goat Control and Blackluster Soldier and Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy, and the Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoys. Like those cards were broken. Like Yatagarasu was literally the most toxic card ever, because you go ahead and literally lock someone out of a game. They couldn't draw cards, and they couldn't draw cards because they would just never get a turn. Okay. Next question. Oh, sorry. But before I get to the next question. But yeah, I don't really think it's going downhill, but I do think that there are a lot of growing pains, because you have to kind of treat Shadowverse as like a small child. They literally like they're like taking care of it. It doesn't really understand how to like potty train itself, how to do any of these things that the other bigger games would understand. Like for example, the tournament scene. The tournament scene could have been a lot better, but they are working on it. However, you have to realize that you're gonna have to be patient about some of these things. Like it's not gonna be I asked for this, so it's gonna happen like right now, like right now, because that's just not how it works. All right, so now next question. Does Shadowverse still have a lot of potential to grow? This kind of segues into the second thing, into the second question. But yes, Shadowverse has a lot of potential to grow, just because the evolve mechanic is pretty unique to the game, and there are a lot of different mechanics they can throw into it. Like for example, I know just from Dragoncraft alone that we're still waiting on Orca support for Megalo Orcas to actually be viable, and not just 3 cards that kind of don't really do anything together, as well as discard support, potentially more officer commander support and sword, as well as other unique blood effects revolving around health totals. There's a lot you can do in a lot of card games, and I've literally seen like pretty much just about everything, from discard to remove from play decks, mill decks, control decks, all of that. And again, it's just because it's still a newer game, and there's going to be some things that kind of have to approach slowly, and you can't just dive like full on head first into it, because that's where a lot of mistakes come from. Is they just try to do too much too fast, and then you just end up getting burned. Are there certain mechanics to be added? I actually talked about this a little bit too, but yes. Like for example, recently with Wonderland Dreams, we actually got a really nice First Strike card. First Strike, if you don't know what that is, that's actually a mechanic from Magic the Gathering, in which your creature deals its combat damage first before applying the combat damage of the other creature during the battle phase, during the combat phase. and it's really cool because it's kind of unique to White and Magic the Gathering, which is a huge portion of what sword cards are based off. They're based off the color White and Magic, just because Shadowverse takes a lot of its inspirations from Magic the Gathering, and that's one really good example of it. Again, there are others to be added, but a big thing is they have to realize that not every set is going to be, you know, new keyword after new keyword. Just because you have to be careful with your keywords, because you don't want to put too many too fast, and you don't want to put too many too slow. Like, as far as card games go, there's a certain kind of balance they want to try to adhere to, and for Shadowverse in particular, they've more or less said that, okay, every other set is gonna most likely have like new keywords, and this is kind of what it is for Shadowverse with Wonderland Dreams. Although they aren't like straight up just like labeled, we do have a few like keywords / like new mechanics. All right, and then not last question, but then the next question from Nighttime 3 is, why is your profile a Prince of Tennis character? Alright, so although you can't see it because I don't know if I have a profile picture on my YouTube, my Discord avatar as well as my Twitter avatar are both as well as my YouTube name are all that of Nanjiroh. He's the father of the main protagonist and Prince of Tennis. And for me, I've been watching anime for almost close to 20 years now, and for me, Prince of Tennis was really big for me, just because I started watching it, I think maybe when I was like 11, maybe 12. So it's kind of an older anime, and I was pretty enamored with the dad Nanjiroh, just because he was like one of those like badass, like, you know, dad type characters that kind of like, that was just like really awesome, but also really laid back, because that's how I am personality wise. You'll almost never see me get like salty, tilted, or angry or whatever. Like, it does happen, but it's like pretty rare, and you have to try to go out of your way in order to make me like upset. But yeah, just a really cool character that I enjoyed. Next question. Can you confirm to us that you're going to make your name be known in the Shadowverse community? Alright, so this one's kind of a tricky question to answer. Just because I don't really advertise myself all that much. I mean, I should, but I don't. However, there are certain people that are aware of me, such as, for example, the majority of Shadow Nexus. Like, I'm actually personal friends with like at least three or four of their members, and that's pretty cool. Like, Aya Senpai knows me, sort of, and and I'm also, I believe a few of the Manisters members actually know me as well. But yeah, like, I do sort of get around, even though, again, I don't really talk about it that much, just because I don't want to, you know, be that guy. And I do try to make a lot of content these days, so generally, like, but the overall point is, I'll most likely keep making content, but provided I get good feedback, and provided people like make me feel like, okay, well, yeah, this is something they should keep doing. I don't know as far as stuff like tournament play and whatnot goes. I don't know if I'll be doing that, just because I have a lot of IRM in real life obligations, and I also don't have the best sleeping schedule, so I don't know if I would actually wake up on time for these events. Alright, question after that. When are the Nanjiroh streams? At the moment, I don't have a laptop. My laptop was actually in a fire a few months ago, and I'm waiting for the insurance company to go ahead and reimburse me for that, just because it was a pretty expensive laptop. And I also don't really feel like buying another one at the moment, just because I used to actually play quite a bit of League of Legends, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get like semi-addicted to that again, so. And then lastly, when will Phoenix Roost ever come out of the dungeon? So, regarding Phoenix Roost, if you don't actually know what the card is, Phoenix Roost is a card in Dragoncraft that's 5 mana, and then you just go ahead and reduce the cost of all cards in both players' hands by 5. Or sorry, not by 5. You go ahead and just like cut the mana cost in half. So for example, if a card was 10 mana, like say Genesis Dragon, it's suddenly now 5 mana. And it was a pretty crazy card, and a lot of people were pretty, I guess, like overexcited for this card just because at the time we still had Wind Reader Zell at 2 mana. So for 7 mana you could go Bahamut and then you could go Wind Reader Zell in the same turn. And you would just get to do a lot of like really crazy combos. Like I know my one friend Sleeted Drain. He actually wanted to play Roost so he could go ahead and play 4 mana Ouroboroses. And if one Ouroboros is already annoying, how exactly do you deal with 2 Ouroboros, or even potentially more? Because he also wanted to play Erd, if I remember correctly, just so that way he could go Ouroboros, Erd, and then play a second Ouroboros, and then just start looping Ouroboroses. And the card got disabled on April 3rd. It is now April 27th, and the card it's now June 27th, and the card still hasn't been re-enabled just because there was a bugged interaction between it and Gwen of the Round Table in Swordcraft that would cause a bug if both cards were used in the same game. I don't know when it will come back, and Side Games has been pretty hush-hush about it, so I would imagine that at the moment, part of why it's disabled is just because they've been working on the stuff for Wonderland Dreams, just because they seem pretty excited about that. I would also assume that due to the birthday celebration, as well as the popular leader poll, that would determine new leaders and whatnot that we have this month, that they're probably busy working on those, and that Roost is kind of more or less forgotten, sort of, which is kind of sad, but at the same time, like, even though people, myself included, get kind of like all up in arms about Roost as a deck wasn't used that much, just because even though you can set like crazy OTKs or whatever, you also give your opponent the ability to set like crazy boards and whatnot, and it was just a pretty like YOLO card overall. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to Azure Kite. Will the next expansion be all Wallet Craft? Alright, so Wallet Craft, if you don't know it, is a meme that's usually good, that's usually used to refer to Dragoncraft, or just any 40k vial or more deck, just because usually those decks cost so many vials because they use that many legendaries, and generally for a newer player, unless you dedicate a lot of time to playing that, unless you dedicate a lot of time to playing the game and like acquiring the packs of the cards, you're not gonna be able to afford to make the deck, just because you're gonna be missing some legendaries unless you bust out your wallet, quote unquote. To actually answer the question though, I don't believe that next expansion will be all Wallet Craft, just because aggro as a whole exists for the people who might never have all the cards and whatnot. I believe I actually have a few different videos from this expansion actually of me losing to decks that cost maybe like less than 10k vials. Like so aggro is always a viable archetype of deck you can play. And lastly, most mid-range decks usually cap out at 15 to 30k vials, depending on the number of legendaries you have, but usually that almost never exceeds like 6 tops. Wow. Will Ginger finally be playable? Alright, so I actually have a video about this I believe yesterday actually, of me almost losing to Ginger, and that guy was like Masters, I believe, I don't think Ginger is currently unplayable in the state it is now, because generally you can play almost everything. Like, I've seen people play stuff like Eidolon on ladder, stuff like I actually saw someone play Skullfan the other day first, and he was like master. Like, for the most part, for the most part, generally when a card is unplayable, at least to me, like, that generally means that, okay, you just straight up can't like incorporate it into a deck, / even if you did incorporate it into a deck, it would just be dead weight. Like, for example, a good example of this card will actually be cards that are like slightly power crept, such as, for example, Glacial Dragon. There is no reason for me to ever want to play Glacial Dragon when something like Wrath Drake exists. But yeah, Ginger is kind of playable at the moment, but I don't think / know if it'll be any more playable if it'll be any more playable after we get Wonderland Dreams. I do think that Dirt Rune and maybe some versions of Daria will see more play, as well as some versions of D-Shift, just because Ginger is a pretty all-in type deck, and we actually got something that was like kind of similar to Ginger as a neutral legendary, so pretty sure a lot of people will just try that deck instead. Will Shadowverse be dead after the next expansion? Again, this kind of goes back up to the is Shadowverse going downhill? While you yourself can't tangibly see it, while you yourself can't tangibly see it, a lot of times, just because you yourself might not be enjoying a game, doesn't mean that the other people aren't, enjoying the game. And usually for every, as far as the market for online games go, usually for every player that decides to like leave a game or whatever, you usually get like 5 or more people who sign up that same day. So as a whole, from the general like foundation of how these games work, like it's almost impossible for a game to die. Like, for example, even a game like Yu-Gi-Oh, which people will complain to me about that game all the time, it's somehow still kicking after a little bit over 20 years. That's kind of insane, because anytime you talk to a long-time player of Yu-Gi-Oh, they almost always have nothing but bad things to say about the game. So, alright. Will there be any useful rune cards? Alright, so at this time we've already seen all of the rune cards. I don't really want to talk about like card viability. However, I do believe that for me personally, a card that I want to play with a lot is the Witch of Oz. And I know a card that a lot of people are excited for is Young Levi, because he's just a mage that's as old as dirt, except now he's not, and he's kind of broken. I say broken jokingly. I do believe that Young Levi is a very, very good card, and that generally Rune actually didn't really get shafted in Wonderland Dreams. And then his second to last question is, will D-Shift still be playable? D-Shift is always playable. Is it always like incredible? No, but that's usually due to the nature of the deck, and because even though you can draw a ton of cards, there's currently no way to tangibly search your shift on like turn 1 and only your shift. Just because combo decks by nature, they're somewhat inherently bricky, just because you want to draw your cards in the correct order. So Deep Shift, however, for D Shift in particular, like, you can always, versus a slow deck, whatever, and especially if you have a greedy list, you can always still triple shift someone with a Flame Destroyer and just, make them have a bad day. Like, that aspect of the deck is never going away. All right, so I'm gonna scroll down and ignore this next thing. I ignored this section here with the why people salty about the game. I'll be talking about that next week. I'm just gonna go to Sakia's question. Sakia, if you don't know him, is actually a good friend of mine, and has actually been like critiquing and watching quite a few of my videos. Right. We're just gonna go down in order. Why do you love Dragoncraft so much? So, I mentioned this quite a few times, but I used to play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Way back in the day, and for me, one of my favorite decks, even though a lot of people hate it, is Dragon Ruler. Dragon Ruler consisted of these four cards called the Elemental Dragons, and then 4 additional support cards called that are treated as like the Elemental Dragon babies. And the way the deck works is kind of basically, you know the card Ouroboros and Shadowverse. Well, imagine if you had the ability to have 12 of those, and then also 12 possible tutors to search it out and just put it straight up into play. Like, that'd be pretty crazy, and that's basically what the deck kind of did. Like, you just kind of grinded people out, and you had the ability to play both control, to play OTK, and to just play tempo. And the deck was just, I don't know, it was really good, but also, even though it was perceived to be broken, because make no mistake, like, the deck was very, very good. The other part of the deck was that you needed to know the deck inside and out, and you needed to know a lot of the really core plays, because the mirror for this deck was very, very popular, and there were a lot of like small things that they could do that would give you an edge in the matchup, such as, like, for example, if you wanted to play around Max C, which is a card that each time your opponent special summons, you get to draw a card. If you wanted to play around stuff like that, then you would make certain plays like going like Blaster, the Elemental Dragon Ruler of Infernos, I believe it's called, just because that would let you play around as much stuff as possible. And the deck also had like a ton of like crazy tech choices that you could run. Like, there were cards that you'd see in Dragon Ruler that hadn't like seen the light of day in like years. And it was just a pretty crazy deck overall. But I really liked it just because, but I really liked it just because it rewarded good play. It also rewarded understanding the meta, like, and just being ahead of the curve. Like, one thing that I talk about a lot, at least on Discord and whatnot, is how I'm ahead of the curve when it comes to Dragon, just because I understand the mirror just because when I say I play Dragoncraft, like, I'm pretty sure I have well over, like, even though you can't see it, I'm pretty sure I have well over like 3+ K Dragon games, like maybe even more than that, just because I play a lot of private matches with people all the time with Dragoncraft, and yeah, like it's just a deck that I'm just like comfortable with. I do, however, obviously play other decks. However, the deck that I play most on ladder is Dragoncraft for a reason. Alright, so 2. Which class do I hate the most? To be honest, I don't really hate much of anything, actually. I guess if you wanted to ask, like, which class would I most... Alright, so the better way for me to answer that question would be to rephrase it. Which class do I most want to play last in order to get its Adept title? And most likely, at the moment, that's probably Haven. I actually don't particularly play Haven that much, just because the gameplay a lot of the times is kind of slower, and I don't really like their control decks. Like, their control decks are good. It's just I don't really like it. I especially don't like it right now, just because it kind of revolves around just, you know, getting to turn 9, playing Aegis, and then, you know, that's it. And for me, when I play control decks, I usually try to make my control decks double as grounder decks as well. Like, for example, my dirt deck is is a good example of a grinder deck, just because I have so much inherent value inside the deck that, like, if I need to go long versus another deck, like for example, I believe I had like a 13 game deck with like my aggro dirt versus like mid range dirt, and I won. Just because for me that value is king. It just can't beat it. Alright, so 3. Who is your waifu? Alright, so I know a lot of people say that, you know, they just like immediately go ahead and answer Forte, and I'm not gonna pretend that I didn't do this, but one of the first like gold purchases that I made was immediately for Forte. She's currently the only leader that I've bought with gold. However, if we do get the leader, if we do get confirmation that they can buy more leaders with gold, that I will be buying those. However, at the moment, my waifu is, I want to say Worm Goddess, actually. Worm Goddess of the Sky, just because she's a really good card for Dragoncraft, because alright, so she's a 9 mana 5/6. When she dies, during your next turn, any Dragoncraft follower that you play gets his stats permanently doubled. And I really like that, because you can go Worm Goddess into Genesis Dragon for 18 damage. Like 18 damage is a very real number. That's pretty insane. Like especially when you consider that's coming from one card. And then there's also like OTKs with Worm Goddess. If you go like Worm Goddess into Forte, or if you go like if you go Worm Goddess into Forte Erd, that's literally 20 damage. Like that's insane to me. But yeah. But I really like her, just because her design looks pretty. Her design looks pretty nice as well. Like, sorry, as in like her actual like artwork looks really nice. Okay. 4. What mechanics do I want added into the game, either from other games or an idea from scratch? I've seen a lot of mechanics, not actually. Like a lot of mechanics. I think for me right now, one of the biggest ones that I would like to see is actually, I'm not 100% sure if I want to see this, but something that I'd like to see is I'd like to see a remove from play concept. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of times there are certain cards that, you know, when they're dead, they allow you to like remove them from play in order to get like an additional effect, like, which is pretty cool. It does however open up a lot of crazy / like silly scenarios of things you can do, such as, for example, there used to be a deck way back in the day that was Dimension Fusion, and you'd basically just like remove from play a ton of stuff, and then just like bring it all back in one turn and just OTK your opponent. It was pretty crazy, but I don't know exactly how I would like to work that into Shadowverse. Although I do actually like the design of Illusionist, which is a rune card. She says when she comes into play, you get to resummon a creature that the highest cost of creature that's in your graveyard, and then give it rush, and then banish it at the end of that turn, which is pretty nice to me. I actually really like the design of that card, just because there's gonna be a lot of like interesting things you can do with it. But yeah, that's probably a mechanic that I'd like to see. I would also maybe like to see more alternate win conditions, actually. Like, one thing that Magic the Gathering has head and shoulders above other decks is that they have the most alternate win cons in the game. Like, there's like win cons like, oh, once your health goes past 50, you win. Once you no longer have cards in your, once you exactly have 0 cards in your deck, you win, etc. And those are all pretty cool. And I really like them just because they're unique, and then they also give you more ways to play the game. Like, Shadowverse does have the ability to do that. However, at the moment, as far as OTKs go, we only have one non-damage OTK, and that's Sarah. But yeah, it'd be pretty interesting if they added more, just because combos are pretty cool. Just because they add like a different element to the game. And then 5 is Albert Gay. Alright, so when he mentions Albert here, he's talking about Albert Levin Saber. Levin Saber. I don't know if Albert's gay, to be honest, because I actually haven't watched the anime. Because yes, Shadowverse does have 2 different animes. However, I kind of fell asleep during both of them. Not on purpose, but I just, I just sometimes have difficulty staying awake. And then his next question, what's your favorite condiment for French fries? Alright, so for me, I really like barbecue sauce. However, I know a lot of people don't really like that at all. And I'm kind of like an exception for that. But yeah, I just really enjoy barbecue sauce because like I actually rarely had ketchup growing up as a kid. Like, but I almost always had barbecue sauce. So it's just kind of it's just a thing that I personally enjoy. However, I do know some people that eat it they eat French fries with mayo, with ketchup. Let's see, with loads of salt, etc. But yeah. All right, and then to part 2 of his question, Forte or Rowan? Always Forte. Fafnir or Bahamut? Alright, so that's kind of difficult for me to answer, just because I really like Bahamut because his artwork is pretty nice. However, I also like Fafnir as well, just because Fafnir has won me quite a few games. However, I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Bahamut because Bahamut was actually the first legendary I pulled when I started playing the game. Alright, Ayla or Sybil? I'm gonna go ahead and go with Sybil here because that side boob. And then Genesis or Zeus? Always Genesis. Like, there's nothing wrong with Zeus. It's just that I'm really sad because one of the options for the potential leader, for the potential new leader for Dragoncraft, could have been Genesis Dragon. However, Genesis Dragon at the moment looks like it's not gonna win, and I'm kind of sad by that, just because Genesis is really when you actually look at Genesis, that dude is really cool. Like he's a very, very ancient dragon, and his flavor text is cool, his attack animation is cool. All of that is just so cool. Like you don't even know. Like I believe his entry animation is, his entry line is, before creation there was destruction, and like his flavor text is, well, while other people may take days to create a world, he does it in just a second, and that's just, I don't know, like, just too cool. And then lastly, the last question that I have today is Gakba. Gakba is another like longtime viewer of mine, as well as a longtime friend, and his question is Yami Yugi or Seto Kaiba. Some quick context for this. He actually said the other day that because I play dragons so much that I'm like the Seto Kaiba of Shadowverse, except not as conceited. And that was pretty funny and cool to me. Like I actually really enjoyed that compliment a lot. However, in terms of who I prefer more, I think I want to say Yami Yugi. However, Kaiba does play a lot of dragons, and I do also, play a lot of dragons. So it might end up being a close tie, but with a slight edge over to Yami Yugi. But yeah, that's all the questions for this week. You can go ahead and message me, and you can go ahead and ask me questions down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer them in the following week. And I'll be going ahead and doing this each and every week. I think I'll be uploading these on Friday. However, I decided to upload this today because I kind of did it late. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Go ahead and leave a like if you did. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.